And then I went to work for a ministry that changed its name. At the time it was called the American Board of Missions to the Jews. Now it's called Chosen People, which was the name of their magazine and well, whatever. And I thought, this is going to be great, because they moved me to Chicago, where they had Messianic congregations. And when I got there, I was really happy to be working with them, and they said, I said, I'm looking forward to going to a Messianic congregation here. And they said, no, you don't want to go there. I said, really, why? They're bad. They wear taluses and kippahs, which is what I wanted to do. But they said, they're kind of charismatic, and, that's not so cool. Like, oh. And they said, not only that, you wear a kippah, you wear a talus, it's deceptive. I said, really? They said, yeah, it sends a message to the Jewish community that you are them. I am. But they talked me out of going. And then they sent me to a discipleship camp. And they taught me that the law was over, it was finished, and, we're new creations and all that, and this is what the new creation looks like. Not super impressive, but it wasn't the Messianic congregational movement. And the problem is, when you get your early discipleship in anything, even if it wasn't the right thing, it wasn't exactly accurate, it takes you years to get it out of your system. So, in the meantime, I was also going to seminary. We planted a Messianic congregation when I was working with the American Board, but we wanted it to be a biblically correct Messianic congregation, which means we had almost nothing in it that was Jewish. It was like a Baptist church. Not that there's anything wrong with a Baptist church, but that was really kind of like the model we had. And we met on Sundays, and we decided we're going to have a non-rabbinic ritual, which we started. You took a 7-branch menorah. You got one of those here? You get a 7-branch menorah, right? Kind of like that, with big white candles. And we read from Isaiah, the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon you, the Spirit of grace, and wisdom and knowledge. It's 7. And that became our ritual. And it was Jewish because it was in a menorah. But it wasn't really Jewish. I wanted to wear a kippah. They said, can't do that. And so that was our experience, and I figured, all right, maybe that's the kind of Messianic congregation I should be involved with. I was going to seminary. I completed seminary. While I was there, I met a lifelong friend, John Fisher, Rabbi John Fisher. It was before he was Dr. Fisher, actually. It was before he was Rabbi Fisher, too, actually. I met him in 1977, and I took his class because I wanted an easy A, and I got it. But he invited me to his service, and I was kind of hesitant because it was one of those Messianic congregations. But I went for the high holidays, and they wore taluses and kippahs. But by that time, I had been discipled. And I thought, this is so wrong. Because John said, I don't wear leather shoes on Yom Kippur. And I was thinking, how could someone so smart be so deluded that thinks that he needs to do that again? That was the times. That was the prevalent view in the Jewish believing world. And so I didn't go. Instead, I went to a Baptist church. And John would invite me to stuff, and when I have time. Towards the end, I realized I don't belong in the Baptist church any more than I belonged in it before, because they'd be singing hymns, and I would messianize them. I'd stick Yeshua in where it said Jesus. I'd like harmonize the word. It said Jesus Christ, so it was Yeshua HaMashiach, and I was like trying to make a Jewish space in the church, and that didn't work for anybody, not for me and not for them. They like having a Jewish believer there because they say, we got one. But they weren't very big on learning from them. So, just didn't work out. I wish them all well. Towards the end of my seminary experience, I started going to John's congregation and had a good time with it. And I wore a kippah. It wasn't killing me to wear one. But that was like my big statement. I am going to wear a kippah in worship services. That sounds like nothing to you, but it was radical then. I didn't wear a tallis then. The only one I had is the one my son Ari was wearing, which he's not wearing now, was my bar mitzvah tallis. But I figured it would be so cool to do that. But we didn't have a service appropriate for it. So I finished seminary, and I was looking to plant a Messianic congregation. Not the real Jewish style one, but the one that was like almost Jewish style. The one I had learned about with chosen people. I'm not knocking chosen people, because they moved along too. But in those days, it was too radical. I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and I planted a congregation there. And we wore talises and kippahs, and we sung songs about Yeshua. Kind of where I first became a believer. But there wasn't very much else that was very Jewish. We didn't use the Siddur because we believed the Siddur was not, it was written by a bunch of rabbis who rejected Yeshua. So who wants to pray their prayers? We could pray our prayers. And it wasn't very much. Now, it wasn't just me. At that time, I started this congregation called Beth David in Phoenix. At that time, Shmuel Oppenheim had started a Beth David in El Paso. And at the same time, Russ Resnick had started Adat Yeshua in Albuquerque. So there were congregations starting to multiply in those days. And I know you guys are looking like, when is he going to finish so we can get to the food? But so we had these congregations, but Jewish believers were still pretty rare. In fact, when I was in Phoenix in 1982, I was driving with my in-laws came out to visit us from Maryland. And we were driving down the freeway. At that time, there was only one freeway in Phoenix. Phoenix has grown also, but at that time they had one freeway. We're driving down the freeway, taking my in-laws and my newborn daughter to the Phoenix Zoo. And we're on our way, and I see an old beat-up van with a Messianic bumper sticker. And the fact that it was Messianic was exciting, because at that time you didn't have Christians with Jewish-style bumper stickers. I mean, today you have "My boss is a Jewish carpenter," and Jerusalem, USA, LEM, and things that are that not just Jewish believers had. In those days, if you had anything that said Yeshua, only a Jewish believer was saying it. So I had a license plate. I spent the big bucks. I had a personalized license plate that said Yeshua 1. I still have it. When you turn them in, I turned in one of them. I said I lied, but I paid extra for it, so I wanted it. It's hanging in my garage. Anyway, I figured I got to make contact with them. So being someone who learned how to drive in New York City, I pulled it out from behind them, sped ahead, and cut in front of them. And at first the guy had a mean look on his face, and then he saw my license plate and he starts honking. And I pulled over side by side, and they're waving, and I go like this. We pull off onto the service road. Not the service, the shoulder. We pull off at the shoulder. We start hugging each other. My in-laws are in the back seat watching all this. I told them who I am. They told me who they were. They were coming from some retreat. And then we exchanged numbers. They took off, and then my in-laws go, "Friends of yours?" I had never met them before in my life. It was true. And that's how it was then. You met a Jewish believer, it was a big deal. Now, you meet, it's so what? It's not such a big deal. But at that time, it was a big deal.